Hello and welcome to the April USDA pre-report webinar. My name is Peter Kemp and I'm an attorney with Progressive Ag Law. Joining me today is Tom Wilja, a market analyst with Progressive Ag Marketing, and Brian Strumman, a market analyst with Progressive Ag Marketing as well. Gentlemen, the April USDA report comes out next week. What do you see in that report and what should farmers do?
Well, I think before we even get into that report, it's good to review what went down with the planting report March 31st, and we were all shocked with that corn number, Brian. We could allude a little bit into that.
Sure. And that was a big surprise in the March 31st report. Traders were looking for 91 million acres, and we came in at 93.6 million, as you can see on the planted acreage chart that we have attached. And when you look at those planted acres, a lot of that expansion was expected to come in the Delta region. About 1 million of those acres. And what's interesting, I think, when you look at the planting progress report that we saw this week, there are some acres down there that have not been planted yet. There is some delayed planting due to the wet conditions that they continue to have. Mm-hmm. And as we go forward, it will be interesting to see what happens with some of those acres, and if some of those acres do get switched to soybeans. So, that's something that's certainly going to be watched as we go forward. The conditions have been cool this last week and into next week. They do warm as we move into the next 10 to 14 day time frame. But again, that acreage number was a surprise as far as corn goes.
They said it was they were off the most in that report, the most in 20 years. So, in looking at the numbers, there was about a 700,000 acre increase coming in North Dakota. So you could believe that a little bit because of the cut in wheat acreage, just the way it's penciling out. But still, overall, it was a very big number and a very big surprise.
It was, and again, I think the weather's certainly going to be watched as we go forward. And what's interesting too are some of those acres going to get switched over to soybeans with delayed planting again in that Delta region.
Well, and it's interesting too, just in some of the guys I've visited with, guys really are on an indecision in what they're going to plant this spring. Their corn receipts are all over the board, and guys haven't ordered wheat yet. They might be now with this little rally that we've had. So it all comes down to spring weather once again.
It sure does. And then when you look at the stocks, that's another interesting number. We'll see in Tuesday's report, as Peter was talking about, we have the monthly USDA supply and demand report that comes out. The numbers that we saw from USDA on March 31st, as far as acreage numbers, more than likely won't be in that report. They'll be in the May report. Yeah. So we're basically going to be dealing with stocks. And as you can see, our stocks at 1.845 billion, again, more than adequate. When you look back at like a 5-6 year history, our stocks are near all-time highs. So demand has certainly played a key. Exports have been slow this past winter, but this last month they have picked up, and we'll see if that demand can continue to come into play. Some of the support, again, coming from the dollar's been under some recent pressure here in the last month. In addition to that, our export demand has also picked up.
And it's interesting too, if you look at the stocks to use ratio on corn, anytime it's around a 14 or higher, the market's going to be pretty quiet. Anytime it gets below a 13, the market gets pretty excited. USDA is pegging that right around a 14. So really it will come down to weather this summer. If that number goes down slightly, we could see some excitement in the market.
As far as soybeans go, again, I think looking ahead to last week's, or looking back at last week's report, I should say, the acreage number was actually reduced, and that came as a surprise to a lot of traders. What do you think came into play there, Tom?
Well, we were surprised too, just because lower input, times are tight. We really thought we'd see an increase in soybean acreage. Pre-report, if there was any guess on what would go lower, we were the most afraid that soybeans would go lower, and that certainly was not the case.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think when you look at those acreage numbers, again, certainly they were lower than expected. But when you go into the stocks, again, we are at 5-6 year highs in stocks, plentiful stocks, and a big South American crop coming into play also. So we've got some competition as far as that goes.
You know, I think the most encouraging thing at all that came out of the report was the fact that corn held its 4-year lows. So overall, for as bad of a number as it was, the number was very friendly to soybeans. It was fairly friendly to wheat. The fact that corn held that low really is a good signal for the grain market as a whole, including both soybeans and wheat.
Yeah, that's a good point. So again, when you look forward to next Tuesday's report, basically going to be looking at the production numbers, or the overall stocks numbers. We're going to be looking at the South American production. Is that going to be tweaked? And estimates are that they have a very large crop in both Brazil and in Argentina. There have been some dry conditions that have come into play here recently in Brazil, which could affect their second crop, which is corn. So that'll be something that'll be monitored here over the next month as we go forward. But again, stocks are plentiful both in the U.S. and in South America.
Has there been any update in how planting has gone thus far in the United States?
No, that's a good question. You know, really from here on out, it is a weather market. Progressive Ag now will be updating our weekly yield models based on the weekly crop progress report. It's been a very valuable tool for us in determining what size of crop that we think is coming in, whether it's going to be a very large crop, average crop, or a short crop. And that model really helps us in giving advice on forward contract sales during the growing season. So we just got the first report out here, weekly crop progress report last Tuesday. They were delayed a day, but it really took everybody off guard there as well. The wheat conditions came in 49% good and 10% excellent. That was a pretty vast improvement over a year ago at this time. And it was also an improvement over where they ended November 29th of last year. So overall, it looks like the wheat crop, at least according to the condition ratings, is good. We also see plenty of weather report patterns. We see some dryness developing in Kansas. So again, it just is, it's that time of year. It's a full-fledged weather market, and we really need to be on our toes here watching these markets.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Tom. I think when you start talking about wheat, you look at the stocks again. They're more than adequate here in the U.S. and in as far as world supplies go. Our lower dollar again this week. We have seen some fresh export sales come into play. We'll see if that continues as we go forward. The conditions have been dry in the southwestern plains. They continue to put rain in the forecast, but as we get closer to that, it seems like that moisture gets taken out of the forecast, and they are extremely dry in that area of the country. So that could affect the winter wheat production, especially for that Kansas City crop in that part of the country.
Any other news, gentlemen, about the markets that farmers should be aware of in the coming week?
Well, I think a couple things now as we get into next week. Certainly a lot of the drive in the soybean market here as of late has come from the strength in the palm oil market. Yeah. Their conditions remain dry. They're expecting their production to be down. We do have a report that comes out late Sunday night, early Monday morning. That'll certainly give us some indication as far as how that soybean market's going to react to that, and some fresh news for the market. So we'll be watching that report on Monday, the USDA report again on Tuesday with the monthly supply and demand numbers. Don't expect a lot of changes there from last month, maybe tweaking the stocks and looking at the South American production. And then again, as we go forward, we'll certainly be looking at the weather as we go through the month of April and see what kind of planting progress we have. The May report is going to be the report where we'll incorporate those acre numbers back into the monthly report and put a yield on that, and then be looking again at production and at ending stocks.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that information, gentlemen. And please feel free to visit us on the web at progressiveag.com or call into the office to speak to one of the market analysts to learn how you can use their services to maximize your profits and profitability this coming year. Turning now to another topic that a lot of farmers have been inquiring with Progressive Ag Law about, and that is the ARTCO issue. Tom Lilja is joining us today. Tom is a market analyst with Progressive Ag, but he's also done a lot of work on the ARTCO issues and has been helping us as attorneys meet with the right farmers throughout the state of North Dakota in trying to address this issue. Tom, do you have any updates on the ARTCO?
Yeah, you know, it's been a crazy couple of months. We've had a great set of meetings. Lemoore and Logan counties were zeroed out, and we had standing room only meetings in both of those counties. So for farmers that were not able to make any of those meetings, we would encourage you to call our office if you'd like any further information. Where we're at right now in the process is developing, or at least compiling, all the crop insurance data for corn in both Logan and Lemoore counties. We've made significant progress in Logan County, smaller amount of corn acres there, so it's been a little easier to get some of that data, Peter. But overall, we've made significant progress in Logan County. We do have some work to do in Lemoore County on compiling that corn data, but the numbers are, at least the numbers are showing us so far that we think we're right. We will not know for sure until we have the full data set, but we do think that farmers should have been owed corn payments in both of those counties in North Dakota.
Yeah, the preliminary numbers that we have, or the data set that we've gathered so far, does tend to support our initial assumption and the assumptions of the farmers in Logan and Lemoore County that they should have received, if not a max payment, a substantial payment under the ARTCO program. And that gives us hope and encouragement, and makes us want to encourage you, if you're watching this webinar and are interested in participating and helping out your neighbors in the ARTCO matter, if you'd be willing to contact our office. Again, you can call the number on your screen. And we can take your data, we can anonymize your data, and we can use that information to show the USDA and our congressional delegation what the yields should have been, not only in Logan and Lemoore counties in North Dakota, but in other counties as well that received less than adequate ARTCO payments. As we've mentioned in previous webinars, we're taking that data, we're anonymizing it, and we want to show our congressional delegation what the true numbers were so that they can correct those payments voluntarily. We're doing this as a legislative and a lobbying effort. We're not bringing a lawsuit at this time against any agencies. Even lawyers don't like to sue people if we don't have to, and we believe that once the information that we're seeking comes out, appropriate changes will be made.
You know, and that's a pretty good point, Peter. You know, when farmers were signing up for the ARTCO program, it really did show that the maximized payments would be in year 1 and year 2 of the Farm Bill. You and I were just running the numbers yesterday. The Olympic average prices will not be changing very much for the upcoming year, for the 15 crop year as it's compiled. In fact, corn and soybeans, those numbers stayed the same. The wheat number actually increased about a dime, according to what we were running. Mm-hmm. So again, even for 15 year now, we're moving forward, it really is a good starting base for revenue protection. So overall, it's a good program if the math would have been done correctly.
Mm-hmm. And that brings us to a good point, is that nobody here is complaining about the program itself. We don't want to reopen the Farm Bill. We just want good data to be used when determining the Olympic average yields and the yields for the program year. And that is really what this lobbying effort is about. We are bringing this lobbying effort with Phipps Anderson Deacon and the Lee Murphy law firm, the same attorneys that we're bringing the Syngenta lawsuit with. These are attorneys experienced standing up for farmers against big organizations. We encourage you to consider not only having us represent you in the ARTCO matter, but also having us represent you in the Syngenta matter as well. There's no obligation or requirement to have us represent you in both matters. It is You can have us represent you in one matter and not the other. They're not tied together. And if you're already represented by an attorney in the Syngenta matter, we encourage you to maintain your current attorney-client relationship. But to learn a little bit more about Phipps Anderson Deacon and the claims being brought against Syngenta, we invite you to view this commercial produced by Phipps Anderson Deacon, which shows their experience as GMO market closure attorneys.
My name is Martin Phipps, and I am from the great big town of Breckenridge, Texas. I grew up in a town I like to tell people had 3 stoplights. Those values you bring from a small town, being honest, telling the truth, and standing up and believing in something, is something that we do here at our firm.
I'm Barry Deacon. I'm originally from Arkansas, grew up in a family law firm. Farming's been a big part of my professional life in representing farmers and agricultural-related entities my entire practice.
You may ask, why hire Phipps Anderson Deacon? The best answer I give you is because we are so proud to represent farmers that it's the most important thing when you walk into our building and see what we do.
Part of my background was being involved in representing a co-op of rice farmers against bare crop science in the rice litigation that began in 2006. With my background in the rice litigation, that's important because that was genetically modified rice that was being experimentally tested that contaminated the U.S. rice crops. That litigation is very, very similar to the Syngenta corn litigation where an unapproved trait was marketed to China.
What you're going to find out in this case is when Syngenta released Viptera to sell to you, they hadn't even applied to China for approval. Because of that, they took a risk, and that risk ended with you losing the China market. When you're choosing a lawyer to represent you in the Syngenta litigation, every lawyer is going to tell you that they're the best. We don't have to say anything to you. We just want you to look at our record. We are the lawyers who tried and won the rice case. We're the lawyers that developed the damage models. We're the lawyers that got the punitive damage verdicts. The rice case settled for $750 million. I'm very proud to tell you that my farmers, the people that I represented, got $50 million more than everybody else. We get asked every day, is this going to be a class action? And I want to make the answer real clear. We're not class action lawyers. We represent individual farmers against Syngenta and other big companies. And why do we do that? Because class actions don't help the clients. They only help the lawyers. Each one of you farm differently. Each one of your damages are different. So what we believe is we're going to represent you individually and not like some class action lawyer.
We are certainly not against the technology that Syngenta has come up with in producing their seed. We're actually for that technology because it's good for the American farmer. What we have a fault with is what Syngenta has done in marketing its corn. It's done it in an irresponsible way, and that has affected all of us.
I don't know about you, but we need more places to sell our corn, not less. And so all we're asking Syngenta to do is to stand up and do the right thing. The same thing you do every day when anybody comes to you with an issue. You may ask what makes us different at Phipps Anderson Deacon. The answer is simple, is we care. I've been on a combine and I know how hard it is to farm. And because I'm gonna make sure when I get done with this case and I come and sit in your living room, that you're proud that I'm your lawyer.
We are handling these cases on a contingency fee basis, which means we will not be paid unless we successfully try or settle the lawsuit, and we will pay all the costs of litigation. We believe in this case and are putting our money where our mouth is. So thank you for joining us, and please view the webinar next week to hear a live report of the April USDA report. Thank you.